planning your day. You're getting up in the morning. Have you got a strategy of who you're calling through the day? And you can share a little bit about the dialogue and what you're saying to these people would be great.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us, or for me personally, to have routine. That's probably one of my biggest challenges is, I'm either all in or not. So sort of, waking up in the morning and not going and having appointments or stopping and starting. I'm not a fan. I like rhythm, and you use the energy from each phone conversation or each email response or each appointment to roll into the next. So for me, it's really important having that list and waking up in the morning and setting that list and knowing that you can tick things off, and both personally and on a business level as well. So making sure we've got those appointments is, and spending time. I mean, for me, I put myself in the situation that we're in right now. If I was a vendor, if I was a buyer, and personally, I would be a little bit, unless it was opportunistic and you wanted a deal, or you had motivation, you're probably not going to buy. You're probably just going to sit on the fence. So it's really working out what that small number of people are that are opportunistic and that do have to buy maybe because their pre-approval is going to lapse, and if they don't buy now, they won't buy in 5 years.
Well, I just want to touch on that one, because you said to me the other day that you're running with two lists. You said you're running with your hot buyers list, and those are the people you're talking about now who are highly motivated, need to buy, opportunist, cashed up, financed, ready to go. And then you've got your B list, who are still people worth servicing through this period. Can you tell us how many have you got of each of those in each of those categories?
I reckon there's only about 5 or 7 that are ready to rock and roll, if we just tell them. Yeah. And then there's a list of maybe 30, 40 buyers that are sitting on the fence, but as time goes on, they may start to purchase something.
And if you showed that 30 the right property today, would they purchase? And have they got the ability to purchase?
Yes, I do. Yeah, they have the ability to purchase 100%. It'd be more so either emotion for them to go, this is actually the perfect time that we've been looking for, and stuff that we'll just buy it. Yeah. Or there'll be an outside influence as to why they would decide going against what their train of thought is.
Yeah. So in terms of, I'm jumping around a little bit, but just as I think of things, but in terms of, I know that you've got a good 10 listings plus on the go at the moment, which is fantastic through this period. How are you? And just to, the number one request I'm getting from people today is just around dialogue. And we're going to do a session the next week or so on dialogue separately. But how are you speaking to your vendors when you've only got a handful of 10, whatever I think you said 7 really hot buyers and 30 sort of B line buyers? How are you working with your vendors, showing them that now's the right time to go? Don't wait. List your property today, and we'll get it sold for you.
I think you've really got to drill down to what type of client it is, and their personality, and what situation they're going through, as to why that would be of benefit for them to sell or to hold. If you're finding a battle with someone and you're giving great dialogue and you're saying the right thing and it's factual and you're giving evidence based on recent sales, if they're still not in the mindset to let it go, you're just wasting your breath, and you're going to actually ruin the trust that you have between that vendor and yourself. So I think the first step is to really understand where that client is at and just test and understand that. And then from there, you have the dialogue. And there's an example that I've had on the market, a property in Wheeler Heights. The house is his little baby. He's had it for 20 years. He moved out 10 years ago, and he's treated the house like it's like a boat. He's painted every bloody inch of the wall. It's meticulous. And unfortunately, he's been caught with the conditions that we're in right now. And he's not forced to sell. He would love to, but he's not forced to. It's taken 6 vendor meetings and me not pushing too much for him to go from 1.7 down to 1.5. And from Saturday, that conversation, he said, Nick, just do your best. But
how do you work a vendor who wants 1.7, who's not a forced seller? He's obviously a keen, motivated seller, but he's not a forced seller. How do you get a vendor to come down $200,000 when there's no massive urgency to sell?
It's trust and being persistent and taking baby steps.
are you illustrating to this guy why why isn't he waiting? Why isn't he saying to you, we're going to come out of Corona, everything will be okay, I'm going to get my 1.7 to 2 mil, I just need to wait for 6 months. How are you showing him? And I know that, I know you're really big on not pushing people, because you can't push people to make decisions through this period. You can educate them that it's the right thing to make a decision, but you can't push them. How are you showing this particular guy that looking at 1.5 now rather than 1.7 is a better move than holding off for 6 months?
It was saying the same thing, but not expecting an outcome from that meeting or that decision, and that I'd make him feel good about, that we are still pushing, we are still doing these appointments, we are still doing this, but this is my thoughts. One thing that I think got it across the line recently was that we've got similar properties coming on in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're listing for May. A lot of these homes are people that eventually will have to be forced to sell. Based on the feedback on your home, if we're only achieving 1.5, but that's where people are prepared to make an offer, and we've got similar homes, we're not going to be pricing the guides at 1.5 to 1.55. We're actually going to be bringing it back to 1.4. So to make sure that we're getting some competition, that we can sell it in a timely manner. My concern for you, to the vendor, is that we've got a window of opportunity now before this starts happening in May, and I want you to take the time to process this so that you have got an opportunity to pounce on what we've got right now. Because if we don't, then my concern for you is that it could be in a year's time, it could be 2 years, it could be 4. No one knows. And you can make up this difference in the market that you might want to buy in, or at least have that cash in the bank right now as security. One key thing that I noticed with this particular vendor is he's got a partner, which I've never met, but he keeps referring to her in conversations. So it's clear to me that she has a lot of weight or pull in the decision making. So what I say to him might not get through from him to her. So I would always sum up my conversation in an email with the points that I said, so that he could then refer back onto that, and then also my message was getting clear to the partner.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I think that's what helped it at the end of the day. Yeah.
I love that. I think messages do get lost in translation, and if you can put it in writing, so at least he can show his partner, or if you're even better, if you can get an opportunity to speak to the partner. I think that's essential. Anything else you want to share with us, just on the sort of dialogue that you use? I mean, one thing that you said to me the other day when we spoke was, and I really believe this, that there's a real opportunity for sellers today, because the buyers that we're working with, we know are keen, motivated buyers who are cashed up and ready to go. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we're dealing with 30, 40, 50 buyers who are open for inspections, but there's only a handful of those who are ready to transact. So, we know that the buyers that we're dealing today are keen and motivated to purchase. So, for a vendor, I think it's a great opportunity, because they're not going to get as many people through, but they're going to get the quality. And with buyers, certainly you take quality over quantity any day.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And it's also, like I said, just drilling down onto the wire. Like, I had a conversation with another client yesterday, and this is key. Like, you don't push someone in this market if they don't want to sell, even if it's an okay offer. If they're not ready mentally to do it, it's just going to backfire. And I took this property off about 4 weeks ago when things were getting a bit tough, and she's just come back to me yesterday going, "What do you think we should do, Nick? Tell me when I should list." And the key with her, she's got 6 kids, and to do open homes and to go backwards and forwards, like, it's all too much. She actually moved out of the house when she was trying to sell it last time. So the fact that we're doing by appointments for only qualified people, the environment that we're in right now is actually going to work for her mentally. So I'm going to use that to get her sort of going, well, let's consider doing it now based on that. But I think the other consideration, which I think we all sort of know, dialogue a little bit, but it's one thing I've been saying is that once we do get into the market where people are forced to sell, which I'm sure we'll start seeing in the next 3-6 months, that will set a tone for the next what the next property should sell for. And at the moment, you've got the very healthy sales that happen in January, February, March, or beginning of March, that we can work off those. So yes, they're taking a 5% hit maybe, but in 6 months' time, perhaps you might be taking a 5% hit from the hit that we've already taken.
Yes.
so close to those sales, so it's easier to make people feel like they're getting a win.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. It's all relative. Can I ask you, how many calls are you making a day?
We're aiming for 30 connections a day each.
And how many dials does it take you to get 30 connections?
Around about 100, 110.
That's amazing that you've said that, because you're my I think fourth person that I've interviewed in the last couple of weeks, and I'm only obviously interviewing successful people who are doing the right things, and the pattern seems to be very, very similar. It's 100 calls, 100 dials a day for 30 connects.
Yeah.
So and if you're all making 30 connects, you're going to get to people. 30 connects per day.
Yeah.
Over 5 days. If it's 150 calls, it adds up over a month. So, how are you working out? I sort of asked this before, but how are you working out your day when you wake up in the morning, or do you do it the night before, as far as working out who you're going to call, what you're going to say, and where are those 30 calls being directed?
Yeah. Look, I'm a bit of a planner. I always like to know what I'm doing the day before, so that you can use your time wisely, because half the time you wake up in the morning and you get sidetracked, or you go to the gym or something happens, and then you actually don't get to put the same thought process into what you wanted to do that day that you should have done, even though your mindset was there. So I'm a big believer in doing things the day before to set up, so then, if things do get sidetracked, then at least you've got your plan to work towards when you get back on track. So I think the question was, how do I plan my day? Is that right?
Yeah, well, who are you at the moment? I mean, in this environment, are you focusing? You're working out your plan the night before. Are you calling your pipeline sellers who you think might transact? Are you calling your database? Are you cold calling? Are you calling past appraisals you've done for the last 12 months to see maybe if they transact, if you had a buyer at the right level? Who are you calling?
Yeah, so I'm calling people that have been on my list. So I've got my subcategories are Nick 30 days, Nick warm, Nick 90 days, and Nick warm. So I'm focusing my attention on those 3 categories that I've already got the details, and I'm already it's a warm-up call. My belief is that the database that I had for May, June, July is just completely gone out the window. I'm literally trying to find a new database. I'm starting again. It's like I'm starting real estate again, in my opinion, because different dialogue, it's different listing presentations, it's completely different. And so what I'm trying to do is do all the things that I was doing and doing all the basics again. So it's sending out an email database blast, letting them know our traction in the first quarter, and just some generic stuff and being positive. I got 3 call-ins from that email within that 24-hour period of people actually doing something. It's doing a simple notice to residents to our core suburbs. It's our sold success, just sold DLs. I'm doubling what we would normally do, because even though people aren't prepared to do something right now that can weather the storm, in 6 months' time, I want to make sure that I'm in front of everyone's mind. So I guess I'm not really going for the cold calls right now, because clearly a real estate's calling for one thing right now. Again, put myself in that person's shoes. I'm not looking for that. I almost want those people to come to me in a way, but I'm nurturing. And my first point of contact is not saying
So there's a lot of interference coming through then. It's interesting that you're saying that that seems to be a pattern at the moment, that people aren't cold calling, and I personally think that unless you've got a pipeline, and if you haven't got a pipeline, speak to someone in the office and get some people to call, get some database calls. I personally also think that cold calling, unless you've got no one else to call, is not the way to go, because it's not the empathetic, compassionate call. You need to be able to ring, and I know you do this exceptionally well. You ring up people that you know and you go, listen, it's not a real estate call, just calling to see how you're going through this period, starting some dialogue, and then obviously seeing where it takes you from there.
People that, there's so many clients that I've sold for that are just amazing people, and because you're so busy or you're sidetracked or things are going on, you don't actually get to have that conversation that you wish you should have had done. So I'm actually having those conversations.
That's great.
With some people as well, and just saying, I would love to have met you. Spent some time with you after the sale 2 months ago. I've got some time now. Let's have a chat. how are you liking the house? How X, Y, and Z. So, and those are the calls, because if they talk highly of you to their friends or their circle of influence, they're doing the prospecting for you.
Yeah, that's great, mate. If you could recommend to people watching today 3 activities, and only 3,
Right.
that if they weren't doing anything other than these 3, they get through and strive through this period, what would the top 3 activities be?
I think you've got to absolutely grind harder than you ever have before. And that means put in the time, put in as if you are busy. And if you have listed 10 or 20 properties, and have that routine, because what you do now will completely impact you in the next, and it sounds so cliche, but it's always been the case. What you do now will help you in 3 months' time, but more so than ever now. More so than ever. So it's,
and when you say, grind, we're talking about hustling. We're talking about hustling for a listing today. We're talking about hustling with buyers, making appointments, and making those 100 calls a day. Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah. And it's not grinding just to get a listing now. It's grinding to understand where there's people that are considering selling and categorizing them, and then working out how often are you going to speak to them, what's relevant to them, and having those processes in place. So I think number 1 is absolutely grinding and working as hard as you can ever work before for a period of time. I'm personally taking, at least 30% off to be able to relax and do the things that I probably wouldn't necessarily normally do. Play more golf, go to the beach, walks, exercise, all of that.
Has that been good for you, that little break that, you're taking 30% of the day off? Has that made you more productive with the rest of the time because you haven't had a chance to do that over 16 years?
Yes, I have to do that last. I can't play a game of golf and then come home and work. I can't do that. Ruins in my head. I've got to work in the morning and then know that I'm not going to have to work in the afternoon. That's sort of how I operate. So, yeah. What
other things do you see as not negotiables through this period?
Following through with your KPIs, and if anything, you should be doing more than what you were able to do when you had before the coronavirus pandemic. Because you've got more time, you just do. And that's constantly one thing that everyone says, including myself, that they don't have. And we've got it right now. So, in my mind, I would be pedaling as hard as you could right now with calls. If anything, you should be doing what you were doing before, but more, and then still have time off. That's really
right. Anything else?
What else? It's just planning. I'm seeing my coach, as you know, and over the last 2 weeks, I've seen my coach 4 times.
Wow. I find that amazing. I find that impressive, because I think that so many agents don't have coaches, because when they're younger, not younger, when they're less experienced and not writing the dollars, they can't afford a coach, and when they're kicking butt, they feel like they don't need a coach. And I think that's why most agents don't get a coach. But you know what? You look at Usain Bolt, all he's doing is running. You think it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's not like tennis where there's strategy or whatever. You're just running, but he's got a coach. So, I think that's amazing that you see the need to do it. And I think that the more successful that you get, the more balls you're juggling in the air. How's that been for you, having that coach? Is it to keep you on track with your activities, clear your head? What do you get most out of that?
I think, don't get me wrong, when I first got into the industry, when I first decided to semi-step out from Brendan's team, the principal of DY, and then sort of do my own gig, I didn't have the money at all, had no savings, zilch, and I had a credit card. And I knew that the moment I stepped out and I did the hard work and I did hustle and I did get the opportunities, I didn't want to lose that opportunity. I wanted to give it 150%. So if I had a coach there, I was able to use that person to bounce ideas off, bounce the proposal off, bounce conversations off, to make sure that I did everything I did to get that listing. And I think that's a contributing factor as to why I've had the success I have, because as quickly as I have, because those opportunities rolled into another opportunities and away we went. So it's the same attitude now. Why would I stop that? And I've always liked to have a soundboard there, just to seek clarity, to always improve. That's one of my values.
Does it keep you honest internally?
Yeah.
In other words, you know, does it really make you reflect and look at yourself and go, you know what, I should be doing this. I'm not doing it. I need to be doing it. I need to be doing it better. Is that the sort of relationship you got with your coach?
Yeah. My attitude is always, how can I always improve things? I'm never happy just doing the same thing all the time. Like I can't handle it. I want to make sure that if I'm doing the right thing now and it's working, that's great, but it's not always going to work. Like I always think about as well, like when I first set my first proposal out, I thought it was God's gift. You know, I put so much time into it. I'll never forget it. Had so much help from the team and in the office, and that was amazing. But if I was to put that proposal in front of a client today, I'd be horrified. How
many times in your 14 years you've been in the business? How many times in 14 years have you redone your proposal?
I have honestly no idea. We're redoing it now.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. Well, I guess where I'm coming from is, you know, now's a great time. See, this is the way I see it. You know, you're making 100 calls a day, but I think for any agent to just make 100 calls in a day and do nothing else, you drive yourself crazy. So I think there's got to be other activity to break up those calls. You know, even if it's 30 calls, then another activity, then another 30 calls, then another activity. Because I don't think there's too many agents who can just make 100 calls on the trot. So using that time in between to work on things like your presentation, your pre-list, there's no better opportunity. You'll never get it again, like you said. I think that's great. Just on coaching, for those watching who don't know that I am a real estate coach, if you do want to chat about some coaching, feel free to contact me, email, phone, SMS, or any other method that's applicable to you. Matt, we had a call come through, and I actually really like this question. This is actually from a Melbourne agent who's just got into the industry. Question for Nick: how do you compete with someone like Elisa Novak, who sells in DY, basically sells off social media and promotes $0 of marketing for VPA?
I love it. It's easy. It's like 100%. Like how, if the client is going to be 100% like not even listening to my viewpoint on it, then they don't get it, and it doesn't matter. You're going to fight a battle that you're never going to win, and just let it go. But the key is, like, I could never look someone in the eye and tell them that I've got them the best price without exposing your property. It's as simple as that. And if it was a really good offer and it was good to get it within 24 hours off Facebook, my God, what else could you get if you put it out to the platform that exists? And
so basically what you're saying is, if Lisa gets you $1 million by social, do you want to leave some money on the table by not marketing where you might have got $1.05 million? So yeah, she's good at social, and she's good at social.
Yeah.
And I know Lisa, she's very good at what she does. But I guess it's fear of loss. Providing that fear of loss for the client. Well, what are you potentially missing out on? Do you use that as a listing tool against people like that?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it in every listing presentation because almost everyone's talking about it right now. Like I've been up against Lisa at least 4 or 5 times in the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, and it's just the way that they market the properties. Like it's again completely opposite to what the Bell approach is. Must sell, dollar figures, photos from your iPhone on fine. Like you don't want your property to be represented as that bargain. Because all you're going to do is, yes, you're going to entice offers, but are they going to be the best offers? No, and you're not going to.
Just on that, you're for the properties that you're listing at the moment. How important is getting vendor-paid marketing at the moment for the properties you're listing? Are you pushing to get them all online, or are you saying to them, look, we've got buyers on our books, we've got buyers in our database. We know it's a very unusual period. Let's just work the buyers that we've got.
I think it comes down to the person's circumstances. So you can normally I always give them my opinion of what I would do, and then I judge their reaction on how that, what questions they ask, how they respond. and then you sort of can understand how hard you can push. And if it's sort of a no that they're not going to go on and they just want to test the waters, then I would do the off-market approach. But I would get them committed to that approach 100%. So obviously contract, but it's getting so you'd be treating the photo shoot as if you were going to market. So you send a stylist through, you do the photo shoot, you have everyone come on board at the same time, as many agents as you can to come see the property, so that they are. I mean, as soon as our stylist goes through, I mean, there's a property that we just listed 2 weeks ago, walked through that last week, and I was like, holy moly, like this is incredible. And you could see the clients were so proud. And like I could easily sit down with them right now and go, let's go to market. And they would probably say yes. But they were so against it before, and they just want to do off-market approach. But I will still do the off-market for 1 or 2 weeks because I'm not going to go against what I said. Just give them feedback. But I'm just getting them committed to that process. And as soon as they're committed to that process, they'll dig deeper and they'll do it. Yeah.
Do you find that once you get them committed, you've ordered contracts from the lawyers, you've had your photos, copy, floor plan, what I call the infrastructure. Once you've cleaned up the house, you got the stylist through. It's funny, I was speaking to a Melbourne agent yesterday who said that's the first thing that he's doing at the moment because it's finding that it gets them mentally engaged into the process. And there's less chance of firstly getting withdrawn, but also they start getting in selling mode. And you basically said, I love that.
The clients I was talking about, I called them yesterday, we've got everything ready to go. And they now won't let buyers come through for another week. I said, why? They said, we just want to make sure it's perfect. We want to make sure we take this out and we do this and we do that. Like they're so invested and got motivation, which they never had. So,
brilliant. Mate, we've got to go. We're over time. I've got a million more questions for you, but maybe we'll do another session another time and cover that. We've talked a little bit about scripts and dialogues. I think that we're going to do a session just for those watching. We're going to do a session the next week or so, not with Nick, but just a general, really in-depth scripts and dialogue session where you guys can ask the questions and the panelists will answer the questions. Just some of the stuff that might be challenging you today. Just before we go, Nick, any final pieces of gold that you can portray onto the team?
I think the one thing that I always follow and believe in is don't get caught up in what we're going through right now because, yes, we need an income. I get that, but don't go out there and pitch like it's your last listing. Pitch based on the circumstances and the vendor's circumstances because it'll rub off. And it's all about trust. So as soon as you gain the trust, then they'll tell you more. And if they tell you more, then you can give them the right information that maybe another agent can't get out of them. So it's having a holistic approach to it and then making them, first thing I ask people is, what's your job security like? Because depending on that answers so many other questions for me to then go into, I know it's a personal question, but 9 times out of 10 you get the answer. And that, then that dictates what they should be doing next. So I think, in short, just don't pitch for yourself. Pitch for them and give them the right advice.
How important do you reckon it is to be really direct through this period? Asking questions like, "How is your job security?" It's a pretty direct question. It's a question that a lot of us wouldn't ask. Yeah. I personally believe that as long as you're polite and you say it with a smile and people can hear a smile through the phone, there's nothing off limits. You've got to qualify. You've got to be able to know who would sell today. You've got to be able to know who would buy today. And I think you'd agree that if you tiptoe around the points and you're not asking the direct questions, you're going to have a list of 50, 60 buys out there, but not knowing who are the ones who are going to transact. So I think you've just got to have the courage to ask the hard questions, identify the hots from the warms from the colds, and then run with the hots. Is that a fair call?
100%. They've got to ask you the question first. If you're giving them some information, having a chat, they go, "What do you think we should do?" Then you ask them the question, go, "Okay, well, I need your job security. Is it safe? Because if you're safe, or you feel that you're safe," I said it's a bloody good time to take advantage of the record low interest rates and the closing gap from an apartment to a house.
Yeah.
So, there's no risk.
Yeah, love it. Guys, we've run out of time. Now, a number of questions have come through. They're all firing through in the last few minutes, of course.
Yep.
No one wants to question the first 10 minutes, but they'll all come through right at the end. Nick, are you comfortable for any of these people to give you a call or drop you a line and just ask you a couple of questions about what they want to know? Yep, no problems. You can get Nick's details online. Just go to the Bell website and all the information there. Mate, that's been invaluable. I've learned heaps. Really appreciate your time. And might call you again to do this every day if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Thanks, mate. Let me do it. Good luck. Have a good day.
Yeah, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.